Hi, my name is Jay Johnson, and I am the Deputy Organizing Director for NextGen, Wisconsin. And I'm going to go over a quick training for phone banking as well as the dialer system we use called ThroughTalk. So first off, I do just want to thank you so much for phone banking. We've got very little time left in this election, and every conversation we have is really crucial. So thanks for showing up today. Okay, so phone banking. It's really a lot like fishing is the analogy I'm going to use. You're definitely going to catch some great conversations. You might catch a boot or two, so not every call you make will be the big one. But when we all pitch in, we're going to end up with a lot of fish at the end of the day. And we do want to talk to people in every demographic. So although NextGen does focus a lot on youth organizing, we're going to be talking to all sorts of people today. And I just want to reiterate that every call you have, good, bad, or neutral, really is going to help us clean up our call list and allow us to have more efficient conversations as we get closer to election day. And phone banking really is the most effective way we have to contact voters this cycle. These conversations you have with voters really make a difference, especially since we aren't able to have in-person conversations at events or at doors like we would in a typical year. I also want to reiterate that you should be really enthusiastic and have a lot of energy in your calls because we know that we are excited about this election, we understand the stakes, and we need to convey that to people over the phone. And we do have a script that can guide you through some of these conversations that will be posted in our Slack workspace as well as the Zoom chat here. And I highly recommend that you take, 5, even 10 minutes if you need to click through that script and get really acclimated to the types of conversations we're going to have. And I promise that investment at the front end is going to make your whole phone banking experience a lot cleaner, a lot better, and a lot more fun, frankly. And that being said about the script, definitely feel free to personalize the call at the same time. The script is great, especially if it is your first or second time phone banking and you don't really know how these conversations go. And it's definitely going to set a foundation even if you are a expert phone banker. But definitely don't think that you can't personalize the call, talk about issues that are important to you, use language that makes you comfortable, but the script is there to guide you and to set a foundation. It's also there to help us collect accurate data so that as we're going through these phone calls, we are guided to appropriate responses that get us to the data that we want to have from these conversations with people. And lastly, you really don't have to be a policy expert to make these types of phone calls. I know parts of the Biden-Harris plan, as I'm sure many of you do. There are very few people who know every single detail of it. They probably all work for the Biden campaign. So if you don't know every detail of it or a detail that somebody is inquiring about, you can always direct people to the Joe Biden website and direct them there to hopefully get an answer to their question. Okay, so now I want to talk about ThroughTalk, or the dialer. Essentially, it is just a system that we use to reach voters. And I'm going to be playing a video on ThroughTalk before we start making phone calls that will walk you through how to log in, as well as what a sample phone call would look like. So it is a dialer system, and what that means is pretty straightforward. It dials for you. People won't really see your number, or they won't see your number at all, and it automatically connects to voters. And a really important point is that it's going to beep when someone has probably already said hello. So your cue to start talking is a beep on the other end. Another benefit of the dialer is that you don't actually have to dial the voter's phone number. It's going to be a combination of your phone and your laptop, or just your laptop that will make that connection for you, so it saves a lot of dial time as well. And a really important point on the dialer is that the more people who are on for long stretches of time, the more calls we're able to make and the more voters we're able to talk to. So I really want to emphasize staying on for the entirety of the shift and for really long stretches at a time. And that is by no means to say that you can't take a break or anything like that. There is in ThroughTalk an option to get into ready or not ready mode. And if you just need to take a breather, or if you need to ask a question, you can get into not ready mode. But if you need to take a longer break, if you need to go to the bathroom or just stretch your legs, you will just go ahead and log off for a brief period and then log back in. Just a couple of notes on the dialer is that sometimes it may be a little laggy or a little slow. And the best way we have to do that, since we are probably calling from home this year, is just suggest turning off Wi-Fi and other devices, potentially another laptop. Cell phones are a big one, and just see if that picks it up. And we'll obviously be there as a NextGen staff to walk you through any issues you may have. And just one quick note is sometimes people will make calls in ThruTalk, and they'll be on what is called the home screen, and they may see that the number of calls they made is 0. There's nothing to worry about that. It just kind of refreshes sometimes, so no worries. It is definitely recording your calls, even if it says that. Okay, now I want to talk about a few different types of calls we're going to make and the different buckets they're going to fall into. And those are starting with remove number. We want to be extremely conservative with this one because this actually does remove the person from our calling list. So you're really only going to do this if you confirm that it is the correct person that we're trying to reach and they ask not to be called again, explicitly ask, don't call me again, or something along those lines. You can also use this if someone is ineligible to vote, or if they're being very rude or offensive, we can go ahead and remove them from our list as well. Next is wrong number. Pretty straightforward. We want to use that if the person we're trying to reach doesn't have any relation to the person who answers, or if we reach a parent or a grandparent and they say that that's not a good number for the person we're trying to reach anymore. You may get a scenario where there's a bot or a robo answer, kind of along those lines, and you'll know pretty quickly. It tends to be a really wild scenario, like somebody stuck in an elevator for a really long time, or a bank robbery. You'll know. You can go ahead and mark that wrong number and hang up. Next is moved. Pretty straightforward. We really only want to use that if someone has moved out of Wisconsin, though not if they've moved within the state. Next is no contact. Pretty straightforward. That would fall under the bucket of not home. That essentially just means we spoke with someone who's not the voter but could be reached at that number, or if someone wants to be called back at a later time. You would also use this if you get a voicemail. We don't get many voicemails, and sometimes they just fall through the cracks, and we won't leave voicemails if a voicemail does answer a call. Next, you can hang up if you hear a beep and the call is connected and you're not hearing anything on the other end. It's likely that someone immediately answered and hung up. And then lastly, and this is the best bucket, is that we talk to the correct person and you talk to them about voting. Pretty straightforward. And this also applies to Republican voters, although we won't want to make a vote plan with them, and we won't want to spend really any time at this stage on any long persuasion conversations. But you'll just mark that they're voting Republican or other party for that matter, thank them, and move on with your day. So that's really it. That is phone banking. That is ThruTalk. And I'm going to transition to the ThruTalk video to walk you through how to log in and make phone calls on the ThruTalk system. So thanks so much again for phone banking. This election is so important, and it is coming up so quickly. So really appreciate what you're doing today, and let's go win this election. Thanks so much.